Part 2 of Colin Quinn. You consider yourself a comic first or a writer first?
That's a great question. I guess I consider myself a writer first.
I mean, are you okay with putting new stuff out and you get silence?
That's the only way it works. The thing in comedy is it's great humility because you realize I'm not a genius. Because you go out there and you do your new stuff and it's not ready. And the audience has to they're like our editors. So like they're there to laugh for the most part. Yeah, occasionally you get, somebody who's not. But 99% of them are there to laugh. That's why they came to the club.
Right.
And they pay money to laugh. So if it doesn't work, they're trying to laugh. So either you're not explaining it correctly or you haven't finished it.
You haven't finished it
And
yet.
that's what's so great, the humility of realizing they're your partner.
How many times do you go through it before you say, all right, I'm not going to do this bit anymore? I mean, if they don't laugh the first time, do you go, fuck it?
No. I'm like, no. I can fix this. I can fix
it.
this.
Right. And when you said, I love what you said, Colin, the audience is the final edit.
Yeah.
That's fucking brilliant, really.
Yeah. No, they help. They're such a part of the process. It's crazy. I mean, I'm sure you saw it in Bronx Tale.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, when you think about it, if you could look at early audience tapes of Bronx Tale and later tapes, when we all know Bronx Tale is a part of a lot of our lives.
Right.
It's a different reaction.
Fucking unbelievable.
But it must be amazing, right?
It's amazing.
It's different.
Yeah, it's just, but the audience, but if you think about it, Colin, now that you said that, it just hit me. The way I developed Bronx Tale, and this look, and I just want to get off because this is about you, seriously. And the way, but it's relating to what you're saying is, I did the monologue, I did the killing first on stage, and everybody loved it. And I went, oh, this is really good. And each week I would write, and then I would perform it on Monday night at the studio with the actors, with all the audience there.
At Actors Studio?
No, at the Ensemble Studio Theater in L.A.
Sure.
And then at Theater West. And then I would perform it, and I would write 10 minutes, and out of the 10 minutes, 3 minutes really worked. I would throw away then I would add that 3 minutes onto this, and I kept doing that. And after a year, I had 90 minutes of the show that everybody saw. Right. So literally, I did it with a live audience and kept workshopping it.
That's right. That's exactly what you're doing.
What a guy told me once, just like with comics, you don't know what you have till the asses are in the seats. I don't give a fuck how funny you think you wrote. They'll tell you.
Perfect. That's what, believe me, we resent every time you're sitting in these studio meetings, these Hollywood guys, and they're like, I don't know if people will get that in Iowa. Well, like, I've been to Iowa 20 times. I'll tell you what people get in Iowa. You won't tell me. I'm there. I see the people live.
And they get it.
And they do get it.
And they get it.
Iowa,
right.
Has the highest reading level in the country, by the way. Nobody wants to talk about that.
The highest what?
Reading level in the country.
Really? Iowa.
This is a 20-year-old fact, but I used to throw it around, so I hope it's still true. Now, this is before Google. I used to say it. People are like, I guess he knows what he's talking about.
I guess he knows.
Now people look it up. It's probably like 12th. Who knows? But at the time, they had the highest reading level.
Yeah, but it's true. And do you ever have... how do you feel about comics seeing your act? Well, I guess it would have to be somebody you respect, of course. And they say, hey, Colin, if you try this, I think it'd be funny. Are you okay with hearing something like that?
No, I hate it.
You hate it?
I give them the stare because they have more status than me, but nobody's more arrogant. So I'm just like, I look at them and I'm like, are you giving me a note? You know what I mean?
Right, but what about if it's a really good note, Colin?
Yeah, I guess. But it's like, if somebody, the way I tell people notes, because I have notes for people too, I go, I hate this. You can tell me to go F myself.
Right.
I understand this is the most obnoxious thing I could say. I'll tell every comic.
Right.
I do a preamble beforehand. I go, I know you don't want to hear this. If you never use this and just tell me to beat it, I get it.
Right.
I hate when people give me notes. And then I'll give them a little note. But I'm never like, hey, if somebody comes up to me and goes, hey, you should be doing this. I'm just like, are you kidding me?
Right.
Oh, I'll be like, oh, thank you so much. Right, so you're telling me what I should be doing.
Yeah.
Huh?
I will take a note from somebody who's in the game.
But if they say it the right way,
if
it's like anything else. If they go, hey, here's what you need to do.
Yeah.
No. Here's what I need to do.
No. That's fucking out.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's, a lot of people speak from like, I'll tell you what you need.
But you know what's funny? When comics are together, I noticed this.
Yeah.
When somebody says something funny, they won't laugh. They'll go, that's funny.
Yes.
They'll just say the words.
Because it's the ultimate admiration.
That's funny.
No.
They won't laugh.
We laugh we laugh not at clever. We laugh at the same thing everybody else laughs at, which is when you really feel, when you identify. So if I'm on stage and I'm being funny, and then there's a moment where the crowd's not laughing, and the other comedians could see in my eyes the surprise and disappointment that then they laugh because they've been there. So it's what you identify with.
Right.
When they laugh because they're like, oh, I know that feeling. When you're like, you say this thing, and then there's like a shoe drop, and you didn't hear the sound.
Right.
And you like have this little moment in your head, like, what the just, and then everybody laughs because that's our, you know, so it's like everybody else. But yeah, we always go, that's funny.
That's funny.
It's the ultimate compliment. And it's a way of saying you should put that in your act too, by saying that's funny.
By saying, when you say that's funny, you should put that in your act.
It's sort of saying that, yeah.
Wow. I mean, it's comedy is so fucking interesting to me that it's what the great actor Edmund Keane on his deathbed, he said, I know this is hard for you, you know, passing on. And he said, dying is easy, comedy is hard.
Yeah.
You know, because...
But you said it exactly. Like I said, you understand it. You did a live show that gets giant laughs.
Right.
Gets big laughs. Bronx Tale gets big laughs the whole way through.
Right.
So you understand. You can't, if you're up there going, then we had this one guy, and you start smiling at the crowd. No, you're
the more
just doing
serious
him.
you are,
You're doing him. If he's like, hey, kid, but he's like trying to be funny, you're doing him the way you do him.
Yes.
And it's funny because you're trusting, like, even if the people are in Tennessee, there's a guy that they understand has that, he may not be an Italian guy from the Bronx, but he has that bearing to him, whichever one of the characters you're doing.
Right. Do you think there are people who are just born funny and some people are not funny?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's people that are just funny. I mean, you take Rodney Dangerfield, he's just born funny.
Born funny. You know, I asked Chris Rock once, who's the toughest act to follow? And I asked him, you know what he said? Rodney. I couldn't believe he said that. I thought he would say like Robin Williams, because Robin is so phonetic.
Right.
He said Rodney Dangerfield.
Well, because
Because he's a machine gun, he said. Brum,
I think it's because there's a purity. Rodney Dangerfield, it's not even his jokes. It's the fact that between the jokes, you're almost laughing harder because he's like, he's just looking at the crowd and you just feel the misery. And he's like, I'll tell you, it ain't easy. It ain't easy anyway. And you feel in your soul, it ain't easy. And it's even harder for this guy. The misery of life that emanates through him of like, this is what life is. So we all feel like we don't get no respect, but him especially.
Yeah. Did you ever feel strange following a great set by a great comic?
Oh God, yeah.
You have, yeah.
Oh, especially when you're when you're not well known, it's easier because you go up and the audience is with you because you're like, I'm nobody. This guy.
Right.
When you're sort of known, like my level, where people kind of know you, you can't go up there and be like, I'm trying. You have to go up there and try to be. And
but that's interesting that you said that. Okay, so a comic comes in.
Yeah.
But usually he's trying out new stuff too. So when you come on after him, do you say, "Oh fuck it, fuck the new stuff. I got to go with the heavy stuff now"?
Sometimes, yeah.
Sometimes.
I mean, oh yeah, I'll bail. You know, nobody likes to admit it, but I'll bail. But I mean, but it's like anything else. All you have is you. So if the biggest rookie mistake, which I'm sure you know from all of your stuff, if I go up there and try to keep the energy of Rodney Dangerfield or Chris Rock or anybody, if I try to keep their energy and go, hey, this guy's got the energy of this, I'm bringing, no. All I have is me. If it's not enough, I understand. I get it.
Wow.
You people don't want that,
That's
but this is all I
yeah.
have.
Wow.
Right?
That was a great answer. So I'm not going to bring you up the way he is. This is me. If you dig me, great. If you don't, fine.
I understand. I can't do anything. I can't be what I'm not.
Wow.
Right?
I think that's brilliant.
But you know that from your work, right? I mean,
yes, this is it. This
is what I got.
This is what I got, and this is what I do. What would advice you have for any? And they always ask me this, and I say, well, yeah, that's a question you should ask a comic. Any comic coming up today, what advice can you give him, Colin?
I would say that today, especially because it's like everything else, saturated. Everything's so saturated. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I always feel like if you try to be, like if you're naturally dirty and shocking, that's who you should be. But if you're not naturally dirty and shocking, don't be that. be what you try to be. Like, I think the greatest hook, I always say this is my own snobby way of saying this, being passive, but I always say the biggest hook you can have to be unique is to be intelligent. So if you go for an intelligent angle, I feel like that's always a safe bet with comedians. Because the whole thing about comedy, when I think about it, is it's the same subject, like you said, Sebastian, Dahmer, it's your take on things. So you're looking at the same thing that every other comic is looking at. Your angle on it might be different. So it's just your shifting of what you believe or what you see. And that's all it is.
Wow.
How you see the same thing we all see. So that's the important thing to remember. And to work like, you have to write all the time. Everybody's always like, I'll go on stage. Go on stage is the fun part. Writing is the ugly part, as you well know.
Yes.
Ugly.
Yes.
Ugly. Writing, when you were going on stage at EST, I use the lingo so people know I'm in the, but when you're on stage there, that's the fun part every Monday night. You're looking forward to it. The dirty work was on Thursday and Friday when everybody else is going out to the club and you're sitting alone at 3 a.m. trying to get that one sentence right.
Right.
That's the part that nobody likes.
Right. And
we all hate it.
You keep getting it
but Monday night you get that laugh. You must have been high as a kite when you're like, I can't believe I figured out a piece of this puzzle.
But isn't that a beautiful thing when you write something, you go, wait a minute, I wrote it. This is funny. And then you do it and it works.
Yeah. But the hard part is making sure on Thursday and Friday, I can't go out tonight.
Right. Now, you're married, right?
Yeah.
And you've been a comic all your life, right?
Yeah.
And your wife's, is your wife in the business?
Yeah, she's a producer.
She's a producer. Okay. So she understands, as a comic, you travel a lot, right?
Sure.
I mean, every comic has to go on the road.
Yeah.
Well, because that's where...
it all goes.
That's where it all goes. But the thing that when I watch you, Colin, you don't talk about personal things, your marriage or things like that too much. You talk about events in life, in the world.
Right.
It's stuff that makes you think.
The stuff that makes you think. That's what I mean there was so many moments I turned to my wife and I go, I never thought of that. Fuck yeah, I never thought of that. Did you ever hear a bit from another comic and say, oh, I wish I thought, how could I not?
All the time.
Right.
They're the best. I mean, that's what I love about comedy is when somebody gets up there, you go, that's the great. And that's why comedians will go to you. Like one of the biggest compliments you get from other comedians is when you go off stage, they go, you motherfucker. That's what they say.
Right.
And it means like, I wish.
What a great bit that is.
Yes.
Why didn't I think of that?
Why do I think of that? No, we all feel that way. I mean, every comedian has at least 1 or 2 bits, and some of them have 50 bits, where I'm like, that's beautiful.
Right.
It's beautiful.
But you'll say that to another comic. What a great bit that was.
Of course.
Right.
I mean, you have to. You have to give it up.
But
the fun.
It's the voice. It's the voices that you have.
Yes.
It's your voice.
Yes.
It's Sebastian's voice, Bill Burr's voice, Chris's voice.
There's so many.
It's the one with
there's 100 that we don't know.
And then another unique voice is Jerry's voice.
Yes.
Jerry Seinfeld.
Oh, yeah.
His voice is totally different than it's his own
Absolutely.
voice, but it works. Brilliantly funny.
Yeah.
So I go, how could two comics talk about the same thing, but one is funny and one's not funny?
Yeah.
I go, how could that be?
It's the angle. I feel like it's the take you have on it. Like, you know what I mean? Like what you take. Look, somebody else could talk about growing up on your block, 187.
Right.
Somebody else could talk about your block and be like, look, here's what happened, this, and it would not come out as the work of art that it is, the street poetry that it became.
Right.
So it's all, you know what I mean? It's the execution. So they have the same take, and they'll tell the same story.
And the same story, but
and people be like, that was a really sad story. I was a little depressed by it.
Right. Do you ever get comics or somebody come over to you and say, hey, you stole my bit?
Not me, no.
Not you. I mean, not comics, just idiot people. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Idiot people, not comics.
Yes.
They'll say,
Yeah.
How about this one? I'm thinking about being a comic. People say I'm funny.
Yeah.
And I always go, get the fuck on stage.
Well, that's the thing.
You think you're funny? Good.
Well, it's like
go on a strange where there's all these strangers.
Yes.
And let's see how fucking funny you are.
And some of them are really funny people, but it's a different. It's what the guy said to me. You're a natural. Come back in a year.
That was brilliant.
That was a brilliant thing. His name was Chris Blitman. I don't think he's in the game anymore, but he said that. I mean, talk about a brilliant
He knew.
statement. He knew, like,
He knew.
this is not a game. You're a
Yeah.
natural. Nobody gives a shit.
Wow.
He was saying, you're a natural. Good for you.
Right.
Like, he was admitting. He goes,
Right.
you belong here. But there's a million people that come by that are probably naturals. Are you going to be here in a year? You're going to work out every night? Are you going to go for free? All these other clubs? And like I said, the people I was around.
There's no other way. You have to pay your dues to be a comic.
Not only do you have to pay your dues, you have to pay your dues now. Chris Rock wants to do a new hour. He has to go to the clubs, work out his new stuff, have giant silences. That's the sad part. Jerry does it. Everybody does it. If there was a way, we would have found it by now.
Right. You would have found it by now.
You know what I mean?
There's no easy way.
Yeah, no, it's really interesting. Nobody gets away with it, even when they've made it big. You know what I mean?
It's like William Goldman said, you don't know what you have till the ashes are in the seats.
That's right.
Period.
Yeah.
Period. He doesn't give a fuck.
The other thing I love William Goldman says, my favorite quote is, in the specific is the universal.
Wow.
Why do you think a Bronx Tale works all over the place? In the specific is the universal. You're not saying, hey, let's make sure that people understand this
Right.
could be their house. No. You're just saying, here's the story, and they feel it.
Wow. You're right.
William Goldman.
Right. So Colin, before the show, I got to bring it up. You said you met Bob De Niro, and
I met Bob De Niro at SNL. And we had a funny interaction. It was fine. A couple of laughs, whatever.
right.
And then a few years, but I did a De Niro impression, but not a good one. But anyway, a few years later, his wife calls me up and goes, Colin, would you come to De Niro's Bob's 60th birthday party at Le Cirque, and will you just do your De Niro impression? Now, a person who wasn't a borderline personality would go, yes, I'll do that. I'll come. I'll do a 2-minute De Niro impression, and that'll be it.
That'll be it.
Instead, I go to because I was doing comedy at the time. I was really feeling my notes. You have to understand the mindset. So I'm like, I'll do better than that. I'll do a whole set about De Niro. And she's like, oh, well, you don't have. Like, she was trying to be, even her gut told her what's going on.
Don't do this.
I go, I'll do the whole thing. I was like Ralph Cram. You ever see when he goes, I'm going straight for the $69,000.
right.
That's what this was. This is exactly what this was. I show up. I spend 3 days writing. I broke every rule of comedy. So I spent 3 days writing a whole thing about De Niro, a bunch of material, jokes about his career, his life, but couldn't try any of it out because it's only for one night, a roast. So I didn't have it rehearsed, so I'd have to read it off paper. So these are breaking all the rules of comedy.
Every rule.
I show up, I break another one. I walk in, all the waiters, I felt bad. I'm like, these guys probably wanted to be in. Here I am doing this. I'm like, it's probably, I feel like Scorsese and these guys are probably like, they're going to be like, this guy should be in all movies. He's like our type of guy. How do we not see this guy this whole time?
Right.
This is all going on in my mind. None of what I'm saying is me trying to
this is
enhance
over 20
my
years
own
ago. Right.
delusions of grandeur.
Right.
So I go there. I show up. I got my papers. Then she goes to me, another rule of comedy, I'll introduce you. No. I go up. Don't introduce me. There's a bunch of people. You're there. All those people, right? Chris Walken's there. Harvey Keitel's there.
Right.
Robin
I remember,
Williams.
yes.
And, right. So Irwin Winkler.
Right.
Scorsese's not there, thank God. So me and him are still fine, I'm sure. But I thought he was going to be there. I come out and I just take the mic. And as Robin Williams said to me later, he goes, yeah, I just saw you up there talking into a mic. I go, what's going on? We're in the middle of eating dinner. So I go, hey, I'm here to talk about Bob De Niro, He was in, and I start doing roast jokes about De Niro. There's no introduction. They figured drunk grab the mic. It's not like I have a elegant affect anyway. So I go, he was in so-and-so. How'd you apologize for your last, whatever horrible movie you just made? I go, what'd you do to prepare for that when you stare in the mirror and apologize to the audience? I really look, was he insulting De Niro at his birthday party? Who's this guy? I go, yeah, a few more jokes about De Niro. And then I turned to your table because I said, this is going bad. I could, read that much.
Right.
I was like, what's going on? Because in my mind, this is going to be the greatest night of my life. This was the culmination of all of my work in my mind. Wow. I have a bunch of notes spread out on the table.
Right.
Notes. So I'm not leaving until these notes are done. There's no early exit like I should have.
Right.
These notes are here for a reason. I'm getting to all of them.
Broke every rule.
Broke every rule. So right now I start improvising just to bust balls, trying to get the crowd back. I go, hey, Chris Walken, what are you doing here? It's like 2004. I go, shouldn't you be doing a cameo in an unwatchable independent movie? His girlfriend's like, oh. And I go, oh, Harvey Keitel, make yourself at home. Take your pants off.
Oh, God.
Oh, you're right in the middle of them. Like, what's going on? Then I proceed to go through each step of the way. I'm bombing worse and worse. I've got all these notes. I'm bringing up the notes. I'm trying to tell this stupid story from when the first time I was a taxi driver. And I'm doing like, so it's embarrassing to even go with the actual material.
Right.
And then I did I'd written like a parody of a Goodfellas scene.
Wow.
But I'm doing it all myself. I'm doing all the characters. I mean, silence, like grunts. Like it was almost getting like you could feel violence in the air. When you really bomb, people start getting angry because you're interrupting dinner. And then, right? And then, you could just feel people like, oh, you're ruining on. And then I'm just up there bombing left and right. And the only left I got is Le Cirque, St. Patrick's Cathedral's right behind there. You can see it from the window.
Right
behind your head. So I was like, I can't wait to go over here and light a candle after this. That's the only mild laugh I got. Dead silence where De Niro is like, he's like, leave him alone. Like he actually yells out like, oh, come on, he's trying to do his thing. Like he yells, pity. It bombs. I get off. I was only on for about 15 minutes. I'm soaked in sweat. I barely sweat. I'm
soaked
in sweat. I go outside. Robin Williams comes running out afterwards. I've got a new cashmere shirt that somebody gave me as a gift on a thing. I had another gig that night on a hanger. And I'm going, I don't know what. It was like $400. I go, I don't know what happened. It falls off the hanger. It was raining. It falls in the gutter, and a cab runs over the sweater. Robin Williams starts crying with laughter. I leave, and then, I told the story, ha, 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 for a couple of years, funny story. And then, 10 years later, I'm like, you know what? It was, but as you said to me that night, people barely know. So I was like, yeah, maybe it wasn't a big deal I'm making out of it. And then Jim Norton, we're outside the Comedy Cellar. De Niro was come by with his wife to talk 10 years later. He's researching a movie where he plays a comedian. And he's just talking to us for 2 minutes. We're having a few laughs. Everybody's cool. And Norton goes, hey, remember the time he bombed at your birthday party? And him and his wife, the darkness went over their faces where they were both like, oh. And it changed. And even Jim goes, I didn't know it was going to be that bad. And that was it. So that was the end of my, my relationship with De Niro.
That was it. It's over now.
Yeah.
No. Well, I always wanted to hear the famous Colin Quinn, Robert De Niro story.
Yeah, that was it.
Now you heard it too, folks. Probably my last question because I could talk to you for hours. And that is, when do you know? When do you know? Because just like this podcast, John, when do you know? Me as an actor,
right,
and as doing a stand-up, and I wrote, and I'm not a stand-up comic. I tried it once early on in the 70s, and I was like, what I really didn't like was I couldn't hang out with stand-up comics. They're like so fucking depressing, Colin. They're all depressing, most of them. And I'm an actor. I've always been an actor. I said, you know what? I like acting more. I don't like this stand-up stuff.
Right.
And I never considered myself a stand-up comic. But I tried it for a little while, and it's fucking hard, man. It is like, and that's why they say stand-up comedy is probably the hardest of all in the one person, so at least a one person show, you have it worked out, you wrote it, but stand-up is like, it's you. It's you.
But they hate you.
They hate you.
Well, I'll tell you the joke about the stand-up comic that does Hamlet.
No.
So he does Hamlet, and he decides, he's going to do Hamlet. So he's doing it, but he's terrible. He's just, and the whole crowd starts walking out, just keeps walking out, and finally, he's doing, all the monologue. He's just terrible. And finally he goes, hey, come on, folks. I didn't write this shit.
That's great. Now, before I get to my last question, when you're doing stand-up, I saw Jim Carrey do stand-up at the Comedy Store.
Comedy Store, right? Back in the day.
In L.A., back in the day, right. And he was always very funny. Right. Very funny. And his bits were these arms.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
yeah,
very unique. Hysterical. But then one night he was doing it, and he must have been in a bad mood or something, but there was a heckler, And all of a sudden I said, whoa, this is getting serious. And he said, fuck you, and another fuck you back. And he said, really? He jumped off the stage. Like it was going to be a fight. People had to break it up. And it just like stopped everything.
Yeah.
You know? Do you ever get a heckler where you go, I'm not going to fuck with him? Or do you fuck with them? Or when do you know when to stop and when to go?
You have to fuck with them. Look, here's the other thing about hecklers. I'm glad you brought this up because I think about hecklers a lot. You know, what they mean and what their intentions are, which can be different, you know, depending.
Right.
Sometimes what the problem is, a lot of hecklers are your biggest fans and they're drunk.
Yes.
And they're trying to talk to you and they're ruining the show. But anyway, but the thing is, the audience gets to live vicariously through you. The person at work, they're not allowed to talk to their boss like that. They're not allowed to attack the bully at the ball game.
Wow.
Because they get their ass kicked.
Right.
Your responsibility is to take this person without being, you're not going to be a tough guy. Your responsibility is to destroy them in a very funny way. Destroy them.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And then everybody in the audience loves it because they don't get the privilege and the opportunity to do that to the asshole in their life.
And sometimes that asshole loves it when you destroy him.
Oh my God! I mean, that's the saddest part. Is that
they love it. They love the attention.
Denver, or they just like I had a
Right.
guys. They're dragging his friends are dragging him out in Denver last year. I'm going back, and he's like, "I'm your biggest fan." And one of the friends came up to me and goes, "He actually was the one that got us all tickets to see you. He's your biggest fan. He's just drunk."
And they dragged him out.
I had to drag him out. He was fucking ruining the show. Wow. Asshole. But I felt bad because I'm sure when he bought the tickets, he was sober. He's like, Colin, Quinn, you're all coming to see my friend. And then 10 minutes
my friend.
10 minutes in, I'm like, you fucking asshole.
Right. I remember what Seinfeld said. He said, the more offensive the joke, the funnier it has to be.
Yeah, well, that's true too, of course. Yeah.
Because if it's really funny, but
You'll
it's
let it
very
slide.
offensive, you'll let it
Yes,
slide.
you can't just get up there and just be like, you can't fly on that. Like, I'm just going to be offensive. It has to be twice as funny.
It has to be twice as funny.
Yeah.
And here's my last question too. When do you know? When does this is not just for comics. This is for people in general, but mostly for comics. You have an ending joke. Usually you say, I'm going to end my show this way.
Right.
You know this fucking joke kills. It pretty kills. And your last 10 minutes, but like 3 minutes before you go into your last bit, it's so fucking funny. The audience is hysterical.
Right.
It's nonstop rolling laughter, stops the show. Would you say to yourself, get the fuck off now, or go to the next bit?
That's a great question. That's the smart move would be to get off then.
Right.
But like I said, greed plays a big part. Ego plays a big part.
Right.
And you're like, you know what? Plus, you have to grow. So the people that are satisfied with just getting off on their biggest laugh, I understand. But to me, that's a short-term win. So you have to keep trying to push your own self to be a better comic. So yes, the smart move is to get off, and there's times I've done that. But in general, I feel like you use that charity to do another bit and leave on less of a big laugh.
Like say the second bit there's no way that second bit could be as big
It
as
happens
that.
all the time.
Right, Colin.
It happens all the time.
And people just don't know, comics don't know when to get the fuck off.
No. But
Because
it's also because we want to, at least I'm rationalizing it in my mind, is we're like, no. Anybody can leave on their biggest laugh. You have to try to push it a little bit to grow as a performer.
Wow.
But you're right. But again, the biggest laugh is not always the best joke either. You know?
Okay, but you want it to be the biggest laugh.
As much as I said the audience has to help edit and collaborate,
right?
You also have to help them and go, no. You're laughing at that because I grabbed my balls. That's not the funniest thing I've said tonight.
Right. Wow. Well, you know what? As an actor and a writer, I know when to fucking leave the stage, and this is the time. Colin Quinn, you are seriously. Not only are you a wonderful friend, you are a fucking classic comic. Everybody loves you. I have never heard a comic say, I don't get him. When I mention your fucking name, they say, "Oh, that fucking guy." Well, yeah. Well, you are revered by every fucking comic in the industry. Not only you're a comic, you're one fucking really good actor. You're a hell of an actor because we work together. And you're up there and you do this. I don't know. You're like fucking Andy Warhol and Woody Allen. You got your own fucking style. You talk in your own way. You say things that make people think. You say things that are funny but insightful. Ladies and gentlemen, if you never saw this man, Colin Quinn, he's a fucking animal on stage. Go see him. You'll learn something and you'll laugh your ass off. Colin,
thank you, Chazz.
God bless you, really. Thank you. I know you don't do many podcasts. Thank you for gracing
Boss, I love
for
you.
gracing my podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed that, and I will see you next week.